are officially
rolling.
rolling.
Henny Boys, Emil,
we're
Amo,
back.
Senior, Henny Boy 2, Henny Boy 1, Julian. We're in the house. And the name of today's episode is How Not to Annoy People, which I feel like is crucial for the times that we live in and any time that you've ever lived in. I don't care if it was back in colonial times or whatever.
Oh, for sure. You can get around anything you want to say to somebody if you're smart enough and if you know where they're coming from.
Yeah. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, this episode is about social acuity.
Yes.
The ability to read the temperature of the room, the ability to read somebody's like their social cues that they're giving off and not to disrupt them. Allow the conversation and both your energies to flow. So starting off, in the first rule of how not to annoy people, read their body language. So body language is like exponentially important.
It is, and it's the first question too, and it makes sense too.
And it definitely makes sense. Like if you're facing somebody and they're not facing you while you're talking, no matter how long the conversation has been going, they're probably trying to make an exit. So you need to always be aware of somebody's body language, And body language goes into so many different details. Like you can tell if somebody's really engaged with the conversation, male or female, and how they're responding physically.
Sure.
Are their pupils wide? Are they smiling?
Are they moving? Are they fidgety? Do they feel comfortable? Hands in the pocket?
Yeah, are they relaxed?
You can tell when they're feeling good. You really can. Hey, by the way, if you're talking to somebody and they're really not facing you, you don't let that conversation go on much more than about 30,
you want to tie that off,
yeah,
and let them be about their business.
You know about it. You ever been to a party? We've been to parties before.
We've definitely been to parties,
and you can have some really good times with people. And when the party comes to life, you're in a good place. But there's always somebody in the party who's a fucking like a hard rock. You just can't get through to the person.
Yes.
And then when they do finally talk, they're negative. They're anti. They don't want to be engaging. They're not social animals. And okay, thanks. It was nice meeting you. Have a good holiday.
Yeah.
On you go.
And with that, you don't keep them like hamstrung in that little position that they don't want to be in for whatever reason. It may not be you. It may be like whatever. Maybe they just feel uncomfortable, but you allow them to leave. But you're recognizing that because the body the body is the first form of communication.
Sure. When
somebody walks into the room and they don't say anything, you can read a lot from body language. So definitely the first rule is to look at body language and make sure that you're paying attention to that. So the second rule is to listen to their choice of words.
Yeah.
Which is crucially important. So the words people choose to use in your conversation are very telling, pun intended, So
you know where the conversation is going to lead.
You know where the conversation is going to lead. And you kind of get a sense of how the person interprets the reality that they're living in. Because
so you can tone down your narrative with them a little bit because you don't want to blow them away by being too intense or too good.
Yeah, if somebody's using words that are kind of subtle, not as prolific, then you have to moderate your conversation. Maybe you talk very highfalutin and you don't need to use all those giant big words with this person. You can taper it down.
Well, I instinctively taper my conversations down with everybody that I talk to in my life, from the store.
Well, you have to,
especially and things of that nature, and especially in parties too. But sometimes when you go out, it's nice to bump into somebody who's really got some great things to say and knows how to say it.
Yeah,
and it brings out the goodness in you. It brings out the better things you can bring to the conversation, and usually makes that party or that engagement the best you've had in weeks.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're responsible to do that yourself back to somebody who may not be as highfalutin as we might think we are.
No.
And I think that's a good responsibility. I think you do it a lot too. You know how to talk to the right people.
Yeah, I definitely gauge. When I listen to somebody and also with the words that people choose, you can tell if somebody's having a bad day.
Sure.
You can tell if somebody's really enthusiastic about life. You can tell if somebody's got something on their mind. You definitely have to pay attention to the words that people use because they're so crucial. It
tells everything.
Yeah. It's when you combine that with body language, you're almost getting what they call a cold read.
Is that what psychiatrists kind of do a little bit too? They get cold reads like that?
Psychiatrists, magicians.
Oh, yeah, magicians for sure. I never even thought of that. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because, you're being attentive. And then, you can kind of leverage the words that you choose to use to kind of it's idyllic. So it's dialectic and idyllic. So it's the right words to use, and it's unpacking the words that they use to better communicate. So like if somebody talks in sports terminology all the time, then if I talk in sports terminology, they're going to be able to better receive the information that I'm giving them.
And you could actually give them that information, like you just said, in sort of like their lingo, if you want to call it that.
Yes, absolutely.
Like their level, their pace.
Absolutely.
And you could still not inhibit, you could still interject some really smart stuff.
Absolutely. But the information is going to land
Sure it will.
because you're using the language that they're used to, so that they're going to hear it. It's not just words being said.
Dude,
it's words
that's
said
probably
in
one
their
of the
heart.
most important things that relates to this particular episode. If you think about it, folks, and it's very, very important. That makes everything work. This is a great episode we came up with here.
Yeah.
I know you're the mastermind on this one, but I love it.
No, we're crushing it. So, and this is funny. So, rule 3 is personal hygiene.
Oh boy, yeah.
So, hygiene is not that hard.
It's really not.
You wake up in the morning before you leave the house. Now I get it. There are some extenuating circumstances where you just have to leave.
Yeah, but
maybe you're a little
But
late.
don't do it every goddamn day.
But for the majority, wash up, put on some deodorant. You don't have to put on cologne.
You gotta change your fucking skivvies.
Change your skivvies, put on some fresh clothes, and just allow people to be comfortable around you. Don't have like a pungent aroma.
Yeah, when you're talking to people, sometimes you're waiting like 7 or 8 minutes.
Brush your teeth.
Yeah. That's true.
And if you're having some coffee, pop the gum.
You got to pop the gum, man. Yeah. Like Norm, my friend Norm.
Shout out Big Norm.
Norm, he smokes a lot of cigarettes, and I try to tell him sometimes that, it's a little strong, and he listens and whatnot. But I wish he would, carry a little gum with him, I think. But sorry I brought you up, Norm. It was nothing offensive, my friend. Mm-mm. If you've ever listened to the episode, it was nothing personal, my man. But you're absolutely right. I mean, also, if you sleep all night, you sweat, you're under the covers, whatever it might be. When you wake up in the morning, you are really not that comfortable. You got a little film on you. You don't really feel good. When you get some warm water on you and some soap and steam the bathroom up a little bit, and you got the hair dryer going and feeling all good, and you got some deodorant on, whatever it takes to get that way. You get on the bus, your breath tastes minty, whatever, and you come to work, you're going to feel better, and everybody you work with is going to feel better.
Everybody you work with is going to appreciate you. It's like next level.
How is that not hard to do? You can inhibit your progress in life too, in your status as a worker or whatever.
Yes.
Some boss guy's gonna say, "Look,
might not promote you.
Frank's a good guy, or Joe is a good guy, but I don't know if I could really have him work with the rest of the staff. He might undermine the staff. They're gonna be bitching at me."
It's like we don't want Smelly Shelly to come to work today. Like she's gonna stink the place up.
When you live in your
friend, come on, man.
Look, when you live in your squalor, or not your squalor, when you live in your own stink and your own sweat, what ends up happening is you adjust to it and you don't smell it.
Yeah, and you got to pull out of that because everybody else is smelling it.
Yeah, because it's bad. And it's actually one of the things that drives me kind of nuts at my workplace. We've run into it a couple times over the last couple decades, and I've tried to help people improve on it. Well, we'll leave that at that.
Yeah. But anyway. It's just simple as going in, washing up, putting on some deodorant.
It's not hard.
Yeah, it's definitely not hard. And if you get a chance, spray a little perfume, little cologne, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
So the 4th rule is to calibrate ego sensitivity. Some people are going to be more ego sensitive than others.
Yes.
Some people you can joke with, some people you can't. So what I like to do is I throw like a little tiny, very benign, innocuous little teaser joke out there, like a little poke, like the little Pillsbury Doughboy, like hee hee, and like when I do it, I look at the person's body language and I listen to their words after the fact, going back to the first 2 rules, and see how they take it. If they grimace, if they tighten up, if they get a little stiff, then I know this person can't take a joke at all. You need to know at what level a person can take jokes. You need to know if they can deal with you cursing, and if they can't. You need to know if a person can deal with talking about
some
sexuality.
Of your social things, females, males, whatever it might be. Yeah. Even politics, you got to throw that in there too.
Yeah, definitely politics. Are they comfortable talking about politics? Are they not comfortable talking about politics? You need to gauge these things. Because all of these things, because there's a lot of times people think that it might turn into confrontation. So they don't want to address what's making them upset or how they might get upset.
Yeah, so they clam up.
So they clam up. But they hold that little bit of negative energy like, oh, this dude always curses.
Gives them a lot of stress, too.
Yeah. And me, I'm totally fine with monitoring and saying, like, okay, you know, Gene doesn't like it if I curse, so I'm not going to curse around Gene. Or Todd doesn't like it, you know, if I talk about big butts, you know, like, so I don't talk about big butts. So you got to monitor these things because, like, life is an ecosystem. You know, life, you know, involves other people, and you got to be mindful of the people around you.
You really
like,
do, yeah.
Is
Can't be
crucial.
too headstrong.
So the fifth law is sometimes you have to allow people to lead the conversation.
True, yeah, start it off.
Now, we know some
Or
people...
sometimes you could give them a little bit of a push and let them ride it for a while, and then you know where you're going.
Absolutely.
You know exactly where you're going.
Now, you and I, we both know people who kind of go into the conversation and talk about what they want all the time.
Yeah, they don't listen to your thought.
They don't listen to your thoughts. One of the quickest ways to endear people to you is to allow them to speak. Hey, Emil, what's going on? How you doing? How was your day? Now you get to, like, you know, emote what's going on in your life. And that endears you to people. So that's the opposite of annoying. That is crucial. I see a lot of times.
I see it too.
I see people, they just go on and on. They're so verbose.
Verbose.
So
one-sided stories are annoying.
And all they want to do is talk.
Yeah, right.
You need to take a pause, take a step back, and let the other person, you know, have their conversation. And you need to gauge it. Because sometimes that person, maybe they're the person that's always trying to lead the conversation, so you have to get your words in too. But definitely, as a rule of thumb, let the other person, you know, lead the conversation sometimes.
You can also interject little things along the way in the conversation that somebody is talking about, and that could be the centralized conversation.
Yes.
But along the way, it could actually have some other life to it also. It's not just centered on either a film or a comic or a movie or
Absolutely.
it might be. And then it just makes, even though it's not heavy, the other points, maybe 5% of the conversation, 10%, and it makes it that much better for everybody. Because people get bored and walk away and turn around from conversations that are one-sided.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking
all
about?
the time.
So what do you got next, bro?
We've both seen that.
Yeah, we see it all the time.
Yeah. You have to balance catching up with new news. So say you haven't seen somebody in like a couple months.
Yeah.
So there's that point, and to me, I like to do like the 80-20. I like to have 20% catching up and 80% new news. So like 20%.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good ratio.
Hey, you know, me and a girlfriend, we're still together. I'm still at the job. Job's going well.
Sure.
You know, so what you're doing, and you lead off with the catching up.
Sure.
So you're building that connection of what you already know, what the person's already comfortable with, what the person can actively engage in with things that they already know, that they're comfortable with, that they know. They're like, oh yeah, how's that new puppy that you got? And you're like, oh yeah, the puppy's getting big, it's shitting everywhere, it's crazy. Girlfriend doesn't like it, it's wild.
Well, how do you deal with it in the opposite sense? Somebody comes in and says, like, say it's about a month after, 2 weeks after a real good movie came out, like The Joker. It's been about a month, right? Somebody goes, you know, that new Joker movie's really good, and you know it's doing really well. And you're going like, yeah, you say to yourself with a big old thought balloon above your head, yeah, I kind of know that, but I can't really say it to him.
You go back
to infuriate the person, but embarrass them.
You go back to rule number 5,
Okay.
where you allow them to lead the conversation. So you go ahead and you tread that terrain. Then you pull back,
Throw in your thoughts to update it,
and throw your thoughts and update them on everything that's happened. Then you come in with everything that's new that's going on in your life. Dude, I got a new car.
You know something?
Honda.
I like that. That's smart.
Dude, little Honda Civic.
Yeah, I got some new buds or whatever.
Yeah, I got some new earbuds. I traded away the cords. It's awesome.
So
But
the person gets a chance to say things. You've interjected new thoughts into his head. You updated him. He's not upset. You feel better because you weren't bored. And, and all of a sudden you go, hey, take it easy, bud.
Yeah, and with the new information, that adds on to everything that next time you see this person that you get to catch up on, and then you get to build with new information.
Yeah, because he's got a topic, so his next topic ain't going to be that old.
Yes,
so we're almost teaching people. We're teachers, man.
Absolutely. Now, the 7th rule is to be fully engaged.
Oh yeah,
and it's very simple. Instead of waiting for your turn to talk, instead of waiting for the information that you want to, the output that you want to give, you just listen to a person. You look them in the eyes, you listen to what they have to say, you ready a response, and you tell them, exactly what they want to hear, and a general, like a great response to what they just said, and then you let them know subconsciously that you're engaged. Like, it's literally that simple.
Well, my mind goes real fast I'm kind of an uppity person sometimes, not always, but if I have a tendency to go like this, I'm always like looking over there, looking over here, and I don't know if you ever noticed that. Sometimes I don't always constantly stare at you when I'm talking, but I don't know what that is. I guess maybe maybe there's more to that than I realize.
No, that's fine. But if you're if you're truly engaged with the person and you reiterate what they just said, they understand, and it won't matter. So the eighth and the final rule is to know how to make an exit, know when to make an exit, and know if the other person is trying to make an exit. So you don't you kind of know in your mind, you kind of gauge and in your mind how to wrap up a conversation. Sure. And you wrap up that conversation, with a tight little bow, like, hey, man, it was good to see you, man, have a good day. And you, once again, since you've been reading body language, you look at the person and say, hey, it was great to see you. We need to stay in touch. We need to catch up. And then that's it. And shit, that's the end of this episode. That was the way. And that's how you say that's how you do it, okay?
I was thinking how you gonna end this.
Subscribe.
No.
Boom.
Hello.
Mic drop.
I know. Goodbye. That was the best. I was trying to do that first. I was trying to cut you off. But I had the opportunity to actually learn from them along the way, and
they've given you evergreen content.
Yeah, they have. And if they didn't, if it was something just even ever so slightly off, I was still able to include evergreen theory that I've been able to know, being a natural person and an open-minded guy. So it makes me adapt.
That's awesome.
Isn't it important? Because you've talked about how cool your grandparents have been over the years, and I never met them, and your parents are still with us, and they're cool people, and you learn from that, and you're an example of what they were.
Yeah.
So you're going to give it to your next generation.
Yes, absolutely.
Whenever you decide to
we'll pause on that.
We won't stop there. Sorry about that.
But as a bit of a bonus, because we're about to wrap this up,